With any Windows computer, there can literally be dozens of reasons why it gets slower. Now, sometimes it happens over time after using it for a while, and sometimes it seems like it just gets slower overnight. And after working on Windows computers for 35 plus years, I have learned that there's generally about 7 different reasons why any Windows computer will get slower. And that's what we're going to cover in today's video. So if you're new to my channel, first of all, thanks for stopping by. Secondly, most of these 7 reasons that computers slow down, I've made individual videos about these topics. I will link those in the video description or in a card up top you can click on if you want to find out more in depth about that specific thing. So without further ado, let's get started on the list. Now, starting off in last place is an honorary position, and that's because I get a lot of people on this channel who are Linux or Mac users, and they absolutely hate Windows. And that's fine. I don't particularly care for it. It's just what I've done forever, so that's what I'm an expert on. So if you're a Linux user out there, I hear you. You can blow me up in the comments if you like about how Windows is the worst thing ever. But unfortunately, sometimes people have no choice but to use Windows because either they have proprietary software that only works in Windows, or that's the only thing they've ever learned, or they are novice computers and maybe don't want to venture into learning a new operating system. Now, that's something we'll cover on the channel later, but that being said, this video is specifically targeted to Windows PC users, so keep that in mind. I'm going to mention all 7 reasons that I have seen over the years as to why computers get slow, and I'm going to start with the one that I see the least and work up to the one that I see the most. Number 7 is hardware limitations or a need to upgrade. A lot of times you'll find a computer at Walmart or another box store that's a really good price, and part of the reason it's a good price is because maybe it didn't have a very large hard drive, or maybe it didn't have a whole lot of memory. And computer manufacturers will often sell these things to the box stores with a much smaller hard drive or a mechanical hard drive versus a SSD drive, which is much faster. And for example, they might send out a bunch of computers with only 4 gigabytes of memory, and the capacity of the machine is 16 gigabytes. So it's important to know, first of all, what you could upgrade and approximately how much that's going to cost. I did make a video a while back. It's basically a computer's buyer's guide, so you understand the difference between a mechanical hard drive and an SSD, for example. And with memory, you may not know how much memory your machine can hold. Well, obviously you want to put as much memory in as possible because memory is what helps it make it go faster. There's a free website you can go to that not only scans your computer, tells you exactly how much memory you have and how many memory sticks or memory modules you have, but then it also tells you what the capacity of your computer is. So for example, if you got a laptop a year ago and it has 4 gigabytes of RAM and you got a great deal on it, but that laptop actually could hold 16 gigabytes of RAM, then you can go to this website and see that, and then you'll know exactly how much memory the machine will hold, whether or not you need to pull one stick out and replace it with 2, or can you just add 2 more, and also the memory type as well. And it's also got convenient links for you, so you could just click the link and purchase the memory, and you're going to guarantee that it's the correct stuff. Sometimes upgrading your hardware is going to make the biggest difference in the world, and it will save you a lot of money versus buying a new one. Now, as far as hard drives go, just going from a mechanical hard drive to an SSD drive can literally make your computer run like a scalded dog. Generally, SSD drives, which are basically digital drives, there's no moving parts, are usually about 5 to 10 times faster than the old mechanical spindled hard drives. And I also made a pretty popular video not too long ago about how to clone your drive. And basically what that's going to do is that's going to take everything on your old mechanical hard drive and duplicate it onto that new digital drive, and you're not going to lose anything. It's an exact copy of it, and it can 5x your computer's performance just by doing that. I'll put that link in the description if you'd like to check that out, or you can just check out my library videos to find it. Now, coming in at number 6 as to why your computer may be slow is there may be a problem with your actual physical storage drive, or what's known as a hard drive, or your memory or RAM. So whether it's the newer SSD drive or an old mechanical drive, there is a test that you can run that will tell you exactly whether or not there's a problem with that drive. And the reason that a hard drive having issues, and I'm not talking about a failing drive, I'm just talking about there's issues. The reason that that can cause your computer to slow down is because when Windows reaches out to a certain part of your drive to get a piece of data, and that data is, instead of being here, it's way over here, Windows has to go look for it. And what happens is, in the case of a corrupted file system or a fragmented hard drive, Windows has to take all that time to go find exactly all those pieces and parts in order to display something on your computer. And that gives you the illusion that the computer is slower because it takes Windows time to do that. I always use the analogy very much like if you go to the grocery store and you're looking for 3 specific items, but those 3 items are not on the shelf, but they are in the store. It will take you a lot longer to go get those items. Instead of being in and out of the store in 10 minutes, now it's going to take you an hour. Your computer kind of works the same way. When it looks for files, it wants them all kind of together, nice and neat and tidy. It wants the little table of contents that says, here's where all the files are located, so your drive can go straight to it and then display it on your computer. So the repair tool for the drives is called CheckDisk. Now, to run CheckDisk, what you're going to do, and you can do this in every version of Windows, so you're going to go to the search bar and type CMD, and then off to the right, you're going to click Run as Administrator. Now, you'll get a box that pops up on your screen, a black box, and what you're going to do here is type CheckDisk, CHKDSK, and then you're going to hit space and then a / and the letter F to start. And you go ahead and hit enter and let it run. What this does is it just looks for issues with the Windows file system or the way that files have been written to the drive. Sometimes they just get jumbled up. And the /F tells the hard drive, go find all the files, put them where they belong so that when Windows needs access to those files, it can find them much faster. I would definitely recommend doing this one first because the CheckDisk with the F switch is a lot faster and it can fix a lot of your problems. Now, if you run the CheckDisk with the /F and you don't see any performance change, I would go back to your search bar, type in CMD again, right-click Run as Administrator, or click Run as Administrator off to the side, and then type CHKDSK space / R. Now, this is a much more intensive test. Basically, what it does is instead of just looking at the file structure and how Windows can read the files off that drive, it's actually going to test the physical drive. It's going to go make sure that all the pieces and parts inside the drive are functional. And if there is a potential issue where the drive may be failing or has bad sectors, and that sectors are just basically pockets of where the data is stored. But if it has bad sectors, it can go in there and find them, move them to a safer, clean working area, and then mark those sectors as bad. And so now when Windows goes to access a certain file after running this test, instead of going to this place where it's marked as bad, because maybe there was a bad sector, it can go right to the place where you move the data or CheckDisk moved the data and boom, pops it right up. That can fix a lot of problems. I can't tell you how many computers I have fixed just by running a CheckDisk with the R switch. And it doesn't cost you anything. It's built into Windows, so why not use it, right? The downside is because it is a very intensive test, it can sometimes take hours. And if your hard drive is actually failing, sometimes that test can take days or even longer. And that's usually a pretty good clue that maybe you need to consider replacing that drive. So maybe you've tested your hard drive and it turns out it's just fine. The other thing that you should always check if your computer is slow is your memory stick. And this is a memory module. Now, just because they're newer and fancier or maybe more expensive doesn't mean that they last any longer than anything else. This is an 8 gig stick that lasted 6 months. So it's always good to check your memory if you suspect that you might have a potential problem. And memory can absolutely cause your computer to slow down dramatically because this is how everything works in the computer. Everything goes through memory. And if you have bad spots on your memory, kind of like the bad spots on your hard drive, it can absolutely cause slowdowns, complete freezes, blue screens, keeping your machine from booting. You can cause all kinds of issues. And thankfully, there's an easy way to test it. So there's 2 ways to test your memory. One is absolutely 100% free and it's built into Windows. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So in your Windows computer, you're just going to go down to the search bar and you're going to type memory. And you should see a Windows Memory Diagnostic pop right up here in the list of programs. And you click on that, and then it's going to ask you to restart now and check for problems, or check for problems the next time you start your computer. So you could go ahead and select this option here if you had other stuff to finish, or go ahead and click this right now if you want to check your memory right now. I'm going to go ahead and do that and check for problems right now. So as you can see, it's rebooting into the special diagnostic mode, and it's going to run multiple passes on your memory. And if there's any problems, you will get notified down here so that you can, one, determine which memory stick is causing the problem, and two, you can be absolutely certain that memory was the problem. If there's no issues, it will complete and it will let you go right back into Windows. Now, the built-in Windows memory diagnostic is okay, and it will generally find most issues, but there's a program that I have used for, gosh, probably 30 years. Just about every IT tech out there knows exactly what I'm about to say. It's called MemTest 86. It's 100% free, and it's absolutely just wonderful. The only downside is that in order to run this, just like with the other diagnostic, it is going to restart your computer, and you need to boot from a USB flash drive. Now, you only need about 1 gigabyte of storage space on this flash drive. Make sure it's an empty flash drive or one you don't care about, because it will be wiped. So all you're going to do when you go to memtest86.com is just click on the download link. And then you can just simply select the download MemTest 86 free version, which is fine. The pro version does have some additional options, but most people will do just fine with the free version. All right, once that file is downloaded, you can just right click and show in folder. And then you just want to simply extract the contents because it is in a zip file format. And there's the files right there. And if you'd like to read the instructions, you can click on the README image USB part. So at this point, go ahead and plug in your flash drive. And again, make sure it's an empty flash drive or one you don't care about. I've got a 8 gigabyte drive I got plugged in here into drive D. Now I'm going to double click on the image USB file, and it's going to prompt me to create an image. I'm going to select this drive right here, which is that flash drive I just plugged in. I'm going to leave this option checked to write an image to the USB drive, and then the image file is in this folder right here that you extracted those files to. So as long as you don't change that, you should be fine. And then all you have to do is click write, and then it's going to say you've chosen to write an image to the flash drive, blah blah blah. It's going to be wiped. Are you sure? Just check yes. It's going to say, are you sure? Say yes. And now it's going to create that flash drive. Now, depending on the speed of your computer, this may take a couple minutes. That's okay. Just watch the progress bar down here, and when it's done, it should tell you it's done. And there you go. Once it's done, it will pop up and say image complete. You just click OK and then exit. And then at that point, we just want to restart the computer and press whatever function key you use, F1 through F12. Most computers, it's escape or F1. With a Dell, it's F12 and so on. Just whatever function key that is to change your boot order. And then you just simply want to select that drive, and then it's going to boot MemTest and start running the program. Now, of course, you can use whichever one you want. The memory diagnostic in Windows is decent. I think the MemTest 86 is better, and that's what the pros use. Either way, if you suspect you might have a memory problem, and that's usually, again, caused by Windows freezing, or you click on something and it just never seems to come up, and something, along those lines, this could be a very valuable tool to help you diagnose the problem. Now, as far as upgrades go, as I mentioned before, Crucial.com has a great online memory configurator. I'll put that link in the description for you, but I'll show you real quick how it works. So this will show you how much memory you have and how much memory you potentially could have once you know. This is the page right here, and you can just scroll down and click Start My Free Scan. And you have to accept the license agreement, and it's going to download a crucialscan.exe. Once you click on that, it's going to pull up a page like this, and what it's doing right now is it's scanning your computer, looking for all the information that you need to know, as well as upgrades and things like that. It will tell you exactly what you have in each of your 2 memory slots, and you may or may not have 2. Most laptops have either 1 or 2. In this case, I've got 4 gigs in one and 16 in the other. And if you look to the right here, it says my maximum memory is 20 gigabytes. That means that is the most that this computer will hold. So in this case, I can't upgrade any further. But say, for example, that you had a 4 gig memory stick right here, and this slot was empty. You may not have even known that you could upgrade just by simply adding an extra stick of memory. And if you wanted to, you could scroll down and look and see exactly what memory is compatible with this computer and literally click right here to purchase it. I tell you this just as a public service. I don't make anything off of this. This is just a great tool for you to use. So if you want to just click on one of these retailers and purchase this memory, you can certainly do that. But this is something that you can do yourself. And then once you boot that computer after that fresh memory upgrade, it's going to run like a scalded dog. You're not even going to recognize the performance, especially if you go from a small number like 4 to a bigger number like 16 or 20. But even if you only double your memory from 4 gigs to 8 gigs, that's that much more memory that your computer has to function and do all the things that you do on a daily basis. It's literally going to be like a brand new computer. And that's an absolute 100% free tool that I used for many, many clients before. And I absolutely think that you should at least check it out so that you know if it comes to upgrades, what you may or may not be able to do. Today's video is sponsored by Aura. Your odds of winning a lottery jackpot? About 1 in 290 million. But some people still play their favorite numbers every week expecting to win. Your odds of your house burning to the ground? 1 in 3,000. But you pay every year for homeowners insurance just in case. Your odds of having your identity stolen or being a victim of online crime? 1 in 4. Let me say that again so it sinks in. 1 in 4. And even though you spend all this money every year protecting everything else in the world, what are you doing to protect yourself against becoming a victim of online crime or identity theft? Unfortunately, a lot of people don't think about it until it's way too late. And that's where Aura comes in. And myself being a victim of identity theft in the past, trust me, that's a battle you do not want to fight. Data brokers sell your information to spammers and scammers. Your full name, your address, your phone number, health records, your relatives, it's all out there for the picking. We hear all the time about companies getting hacked and data breaches and all of that. AT&T just recently released that 73 million customer records were released on the dark web. And they recommend using strong passwords, monitor your account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from the credit bureaus. But who has time to do all that? I know I don't, but Aura does. Their system shows me which data brokers are trying to sell my data and then automatically submits opt-out requests for me. They also protect me against hackers who are trying to get into my social media, bank accounts, and other personal information. Aura does all of this with just one app. To find out more, sign up for a 2-week free trial at aura.com/askyourcomputerguy and find out for yourself what's really out there with your name on it. Now, number 5 on the list for the reasons your computer might be slow is that you're low on drive space. And this is pretty common. I see a lot of people who have bought a machine from Walmart or whatever with a smaller hard drive, as I mentioned earlier. And as you use it and you load pictures and documents and things like that, you eventually start running out of drive space. But thankfully, there's a cool tool that I recommend and I've made a video about. I'll put the video right up here for you. The tool is called Winderstat. And basically what it does is it lets you scan your computer to find the biggest consumers of space. And I'll open this up here for you so you can kind of get an idea of what it does. It will go through your computer and as you can see, it will show you, like this for example, this is 21% of the hard drive that's this videos folder. And this gives you the option to go through and right click and delete those things if you don't need them or if you want to move them to another drive. Either way, using Winderstat is a super awesome tool. I've gotten comments from viewers over and over about them saving gigabytes, tens of gigabytes, in some cases over 100 gigabytes just by using this tool. And then what happens is when you figure out that maybe there's a bunch of junk folders that you don't need or files that you no longer need, you can easily remove all that stuff from your computer and now you don't have an issue with low disk space. Now, the reason low disk space matters is because your computer needs a certain amount of space on your drive to be able to write files back and forth in order for Windows to operate properly. Just like with an air filter in your AC unit, when that thing gets clogged, it can't breathe. And if it can't breathe, it can't function normally. And basically what happens is when you run low on drive space, your computer is basically a clogged air filter. You can use Winderstat, clear up all that space, and now Windows can breathe. And that means it can run faster like it's supposed to. Now, number 4 on the list is one that I see on almost every single computer I touch. And what that is startup items and unnecessary system processes running when you start your computer. Now, the reason that slows your computer down is because if you install 6 programs, for example, And each of those programs has a checkbox in it to run at startup. When your computer starts, it has to go and launch every single one of these programs before you can even get to your Windows desktop. And a lot of times it just enables itself in start and doesn't even give you the option. But the good news is Windows has an easy way to tell what is loading every time your computer starts. Let me show you. So from any Windows desktop, you can right click on your taskbar and go to Task Manager. You'll get a pop-up similar to this. It's a little different in Windows 11. The options are along the left side. In Windows 10, you just click on Startup right here, and you can look and see, here's everything that is loading at startup and whether it's enabled or disabled, okay? And here's a good example. Microsoft OneDrive. It is currently enabled, and I do not want OneDrive running every single time I boot this computer. Now, I can right-click and simply disable it, and what it does is it just simply turns that service off. All it says is every time you start your computer, don't run that program. It doesn't affect the program, it doesn't delete your files, it doesn't do anything. All it does is says, don't run. If you wanted to open OneDrive or Microsoft Office or any of these other programs that get loaded in your startup, you can just double-click those on your desktop and it will load. The reason they do this is what used to be known as prefetch, meaning if it preloaded the software in the background, then when you clicked on the software, it ran and opened a little faster. And that was really good back in the day when computers were pretty much all slow. But today, these computers are so fast that the few milliseconds of difference in speed you're going to see is not worth having all the stuff in the startup. So go through that list and turn off anything that you do not need to run every single time the computer starts. The exceptions, of course, are your antivirus or programs that you always click on the second you get your computer up. Yeah, sure, leave those. But anything else that needs to be running, other than like your antivirus, maybe your audio service, things like that, turn those off. And then what happens is when your computer boots up, it doesn't have to load all that stuff, which means it loads the desktop faster, which means it's no longer slow. Now, there is one other thing that you need to know in relation to this, and you don't necessarily have to dabble in this, and I probably will make a much more in-depth video. It's a little too complicated to go into depth in this one, but that is the Windows processes. Now, from this same window, you can go over here to processes and see what is currently running. Now, each of these processes are things that run every time the computer starts. It basically starts the service, but it doesn't actually start the program. And I know that may be a little complicated, but trust me, the more processes that are loading, even if programs aren't loading, it's still going to slow you down. Now, this is really useful for programs that are running on your computer and you're not exactly sure if maybe one of them is causing your problem or why your computer's slow. I've seen many times where a running process is literally consuming every bit of the resources in the computer. And this is not really something you're turning off. It's really more of a kind of guiding you as to what the problem might be. So for example, I'll just go up here to CPU and click on that, and that will show me what is actively running and consuming all of my processor. And you can, of course, do the same thing with your memory here. This is a good example. This Microsoft Defender is consuming 1% or 224 megabytes of memory. Here's another one, Road Killer. I ran this on a scan before and I don't need it anymore. So I can uninstall that program because I see that it is consuming a lot of resources. And I can just simply right-click on that item and end task. When I restart the computer, it'll come right back. But if suddenly my computer's working like it's supposed to, I can say, hey, you know what? Maybe that's what was causing part of the problem. And as you can see here, it just immediately popped right back up. So basically what it does is it gives you the opportunity to go through and look at some of these things that are eating the most resources, CPU or memory, or in some cases your hard disk. You can click the top sections here and sort by, high to low. And in this case, I'm going to remove Road Killers. And then after I restart the computer, that thing is not going to be running again, which might very well speed it back up. Certainly something you should check if you suspect that you might have malware or a virus or some other kind of infection. Which brings me to number 3, malware, viruses, or other types of infections. This is probably one of the most common reasons that a computer gets slow. It's not because of stuff you downloaded. It's not because of how many files are on the computer. None of that stuff matters. If you don't have quality antivirus protection, you could be potentially causing all the issues just because you're using a substandard antivirus program. I won't go in depth about which program to use for your antivirus. I have one I recommend and I'm actually partnered with. I did make a video with my buddy Nico. I'll put it right up here for you. We go in depth about the programs that I recommend and that he recommends for antivirus protection, because if you're using something like WebRoot or McAfee or Norton is one of the worst. It will slow your computer to a crawl. You could just remove Norton and your computer will go twice as fast. It's ridiculous. But we talk in depth about the antivirus program that we recommend, and if you want to know more about that, you should definitely check that out. Put quality antivirus on your computer that doesn't slow you down, and that may very well speed you up, and boom, problem solved. Now, number 2 on the list is one that I deal with, again, a lot, and it is damaged Windows files or corrupt system files. And most of the time, this is because of an incomplete Windows update. Somebody got a blue screen or something along those lines. This is pretty common. Thankfully, Windows has some tools to help you maybe fix some of these issues that are caused by damaged updates or corrupted Windows system files. This is the Windows troubleshooting screen. You can get to it from Windows by holding Shift and then restart your computer while you're holding down Shift. It will bring up this menu right here. You can click on Troubleshoot, and then you have a PC reset, which basically replaces the Windows system files, or you can go to advanced options here and maybe uninstall a recent update that's causing issues with your computer. You could go to system restore, which basically restores it back to a previously good working condition. You could also try startup repair. That sometimes will fix some of these other issues if it seems like it's taking forever to load up. And you could also go to command prompt here and run your check disk right from here. Now, if you go back one screen right here in the beginning, you could choose to reset this computer. And this is a good option for a lot of people because it does allow you to keep your personal files. But the problem is it doesn't let you keep any programs you have installed. It's basically going to replace Windows, but any programs you've installed since you started using the computer, you will have to go reinstall again. So if you don't have any programs like that you don't really care about, that's not that big of a deal. A reset could very well take care of some of your speed issues because, again, it basically deletes the existing Windows installation, which is probably why your computer is slow, and replaces it with a good working copy. Now, what you need to know is sometimes that reset doesn't work. Now, if it does, great, but sometimes it doesn't. And especially on heavily corrupted, damaged systems, that reset will fail. Sometimes going through all of those individual options will fail. I did make a video about that on how to navigate that troubleshooting. I'll put it up there for you. But there are going to be times where the only option you might have is to completely wipe your computer clean and start over from scratch. We call that the nuclear option. In other words, delete Windows completely, start over like brand new. And I did make a very detailed walkthrough video on how to do that. I'll put that link right up here for you. Check that out. It's called basically how to wipe your computer and start over. And that's really good too, especially if you have virus infections or your system is just so damaged. It's a great option for you to just kind of hit reset, pardon the pun, and start over with a fresh, clean Windows. So now we're down to our number 1 reason your computer is slow. Can we talk? Come here. Maybe your computer is just old and tired. And sometimes you can throw all the hardware upgrades you want, but if it's an old processor, an old technology, and it's 7, 8, 10 years old, and I know it's your baby, and I know all your stuff is on it, and it's always been good to you. But there comes a time where you just need to upgrade. Sometimes spending $100, $150 on a hard drive upgrade or a memory upgrade to make your computer run this much better, or you could spend twice that and basically get a thoroughbred racehorse computer right off the shelf with a factory warranty. So what you really need to do, and hopefully some of these steps that I've walked through with you have helped explain what you can do to kind of mentally evaluate whether you should replace it or fix it. because sometimes you can fix it, and if you can fix it and everything works, then you just saved yourself a bunch of money. But you also have to be realistic. You have to factor in budget. You have to factor in the how much time and money have you been pouring into this computer, and even when it's working perfectly, it's still slow. Matter of fact, I get asked that all the time. Should I fix it or replace it? I answer the same way every single time I get that question. And my answer is, when your computer is running like it's supposed to, like you know it can, are you happy with it? If you're not, and it's still slow, but it does what it's supposed to do, maybe you should consider an upgrade. If when the computer is running like it's supposed to, you're okay with it, then focus maybe on some of these steps to try to figure out what's causing those speed issues so that you can continue using it like you always have. I tell my viewers on this channel all the time, if you are considering an upgrade and it's in your budget and you are thinking, yeah, maybe it's time, but you don't know what to get. You don't know what system is what, and it's just a bunch of numbers and things to you. That's okay. That's where I come in. That's my job. Okay? It's called Ask Your Computer Guy for a reason. So I want to help you out. If you would like me to help guide you into upgrading to something that's going to be better for you, send an email to the email address on your screen and put recommendation in the subject line. What I'm likely to ask you in reply is, what do you use the computer for? Are you just using it for 3-4 things, some documents and maybe some social media and checking email? Or do you have a CAD design program that you need extra horsepower, or you want to be future proof, or whatever the reason is, I will ask you those questions so that I can help guide you to find the right computer. And so far, the response has been overwhelming. I'm loving seeing emails in my inbox every day for recommendations, and I'm trying to get to them as fast as I can. The one thing that you may not know is what you don't know, and that's what I know. I'm going to point you to something that I think would be perfect for you based on what your needs are. So if you want to send me that email, again, put recommendation in the subject line. If you want to just give me a little blurb and say, I use it for this, this, and this, and this, but it's old, or whatever the reason is, just let me help you work that out and get you something that's going to make you happy and keep you from spending all your time cursing your computer and actually enjoying using your computer again. So I certainly hope that you got some value from this video, and I don't normally ask for it, but if you did, make sure you click like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 200,000 subscribers, and I'd really appreciate your help. Now, I don't know what YouTube wants you to watch next, but I'm pretty sure it's going to pop up right here. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.